welcome back to another episode of the Wanderlust Wealth Show. Today we are on to part 3 of how to buy your first house hack investment property. Okay, so you've closed on your property, you've gone through the whole under contract period, inspections, all of that. You've actually closed, you've got the keys. Now what? So many people kind of focus on just buying the house. Like, okay, you got the house, cool. There's still work to be done. Also, if you didn't already know, I'm doing a 4-part series on how to actually buy your first house hack investment property or your next house hack investment property. And if you haven't already listened to part 1 and part 2, go back and listen to those because those talk about what you're actually doing before you get under contract as well as what to do when you are under contract. I'm also going to be hosting a free live masterclass on September 17th, 2024 on exactly how to get started investing in real estate in 2024. And I think that this is actually going to be my last live masterclass that I'm doing all year. So this will be your last opportunity to get real-time feedback from me, talk directly with me. I will be on the call. I'll be doing a Q&A. So you can literally come and ask any of your questions for freaking free, which is awesome. I don't do this often. So either DM me the word free class on Instagram, or there should be a link in the show notes. You can go ahead and click the link there to sign up. Make sure to hurry up, get signed up because there are limited seats available. So get signed up ASAP. Okay, so in part 1, we talked about how to actually get under contract, finding a property, talking to lenders, working with realtors, what you actually have to do. And then part 2 of the series was all about what you actually need to do when you're under contract, the exact steps you need to take. Make sure that you're not missing out on anything there. Now we're diving into part 3, which is when you've actually closed on the property, you've paid your deposit, you've paid your down payment, closing costs, all of that. You finally have the keys in your hand and you are officially a homeowner or a real estate investor. But what you may not know is that depending on the strategy that you've actually chosen, this could be where the real work actually starts. It is also just so important to already be sure of the plan that you're going to do before you close. Like, are you going to be doing a short-term rental, a long-term rental, a mid-term rental? Are you renovating? What is the plan? Make sure you figure that out before you close. Because you want to get that property listed for rent as soon as possible. Like, time is money in this case. I remember my first house hack, I actually lived in part of it and then I rented out the other unit, the other side of the duplex. And at the time, my plan was to do it as a short-term rental. And guys, I literally had that whole unit set up and ready to go within like 10 days. I literally did nothing else except for setting up this property. And that was also that I could list it for rent on the Airbnb website and on the other websites so that I could actually have money coming in and make sure that I wouldn't have to pay any of my mortgage payments out of pocket. Like I wanted the rent to be coming in so that it covered all of those expenses. And since then, I still have yet to pay a mortgage payment or anything really for that property. It pays for itself completely. Okay, now let's talk about the different strategies you could actually do and what you would need to do to have it ready before you actually list it for rent. So the strategy that is going to be the least amount of work and time is going to be your long-term rentals. Now, long-term rentals are your regular unfurnished rentals, that you see on Zillow and stuff. You've probably rented one of these yourself. You may be renting one right now. If your property is in great condition right off the bat, maybe it's a new construction or recently renovated or just like in pretty good shape, you may be able to go ahead and just list it right away once you close and get a renter in there as soon as possible. But sometimes your property may need a little bit of work. Maybe you need to renovate it a bit. And we'll go over renovations a little bit more at the end. But if you do a long-term rental, there isn't really much that needs to happen before you list it for rent. You could just list it right away, be good to go. Now, the best places to list it are going to be Zillow, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. And whenever you post it to like Zillow, it can automatically post to things like Trulia and all the other ones. You can also list it directly with a real estate agent. But yeah, so if you do go through a realtor, you will have to pay them a fee for actually finding the tenant. There are different ways to do it. I actually don't go through a realtor at all. I'm able to set it up automatically so that I can still get people to see the property without actually hiring a realtor. But it really just depends on how much work you want to do. Some people are like, I don't want to think about it. Just hire a realtor. Totally fine. It's usually about a month's worth of rent that you have to pay them. But make sure that you screen your tenants before you actually accept them. And you can use a system like Avail, which allows you to get a background check, do a credit check, employment history, all of that stuff for your potential tenant, which is awesome. And you can actually determine if they are going to be a good fit for you and your property or not. Okay, so that's long-term rentals. Pretty easy, straightforward. The most intensive to set up is obviously going to be your short-term rentals. I think everyone knows this at this point. Airbnb short-term rentals are amazing, but they are also more work, right? They provide more cash flow, but they're also more work. Now, STRs, short-term rentals, those are going to be your regular Airbnbs, vacation rentals. Usually people are staying there for a few days, sometimes a week or two, but usually it's in the 1 to 4 day range. Now, guys, with short-term rentals, it is so incredibly important to have a plan in place before you close. Otherwise, you are going to go crazy. Okay, so do I have something exciting happening for you? So if you have been trying to get into real estate investing, but you find yourself stuck in analysis paralysis, maybe you just don't know where to start or what your next steps are, this event is going to be for you. Now, I do not do this often, but I am going to be hosting a free, and I mean 100% absolutely free, live masterclass on September 17th on how you, yes, you can get started investing in real estate by the end of 2024. Because y'all, we are already halfway through the year, people, okay? Approaching Q4 at this point, and there is so much time for you to make this real estate investing goal of yours a reality. I also think this is going to be my last free masterclass of the year. So this is going to be the last opportunity that you will have to come and learn from me live and get all of your questions answered by yours truly. Now it is time for you to get into the room with people doing exactly the thing that you want to do. So if you want to come to this completely free live event, DM me the word freedom on Instagram or click the link in the show notes to sign up there. And I will see you there. I'm so freaking stoked. Now let's dive back into the show. You want to know exactly how you're going to decorate it, what you're going to buy. Do you need wallpaper? Do you need to paint stuff? Do you need to do any renovations? All of that. Figure it out beforehand. Have a full spreadsheet and a full scope of work of exactly what you need to buy and what you need to get. And I know this can feel super overwhelming, but I actually have an interior design company where we help people who have short-term rentals and don't want to do that work themselves. We'll actually do it for them because we know how much it can suck and be frustrating. And we're pros at this point. So if that's something you need, just DM us on Instagram. Happy to help and point you in the right direction and happy to provide you with that extra work. So I also have a whole property startup template. So whenever I am setting up an STR or short-term rental, I actually provide that template to all of my WWA students. So they get it in the coaching program, the whole thing, just because I know how frustrating that can be. So we kind of help you through that. And in that whole property startup template, these are some of the things that you need to make sure that you know that you have to do throughout this process, especially at the beginning. So you want to hire a handyman, hire a cleaner, coordinate installation of interior and exterior cameras, your Wi-Fi locks, schedule your photographer. Now, I know some of these things you may think that, oh, well, I don't need to do it until I'm ready to go. No, you want to have a lot of this in your schedule beforehand, because for example, the photographer here in Colorado, he's booked out a month, 2 months sometimes, and that can really put a wrench in your plans. So it's important to figure all of this out as early as possible, because otherwise people may not even have any availability for you. Now, obviously, you need to order furniture. You need to actually design the property, but there's also all of the back-end systems that you need to create. You need to create the Airbnb listing, the VRBO listing, sync those with property management systems like Hospitable. That's the one that I use. Create automatic messaging rules, add the cleaner into the system, create your guidebook, all of this stuff. And then you also have to make sure that all of your utility accounts are on autopay, your trash, your water, your electric, your internet. Make sure that it's all set up with your business banking account, so it's all coming from the right place, the same place, so that it makes your life way easier on the back end in terms of bookkeeping and accounting. And if you need a business bank, I personally use Relay Bank Account. It is awesome. We actually have a whole podcast episode coming out with them next month, or I guess it'll be this month whenever this episode comes out. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But yeah, there is just so much more that goes into it. So you want to know what you actually have to do beforehand, which is why I actually provide a whole checklist for folks, because it's so easy to forget something. Okay, that's for STRs. Now for MTRs, so your medium term rentals, it's going to be a mix of LTRs and STRs. You kind of use systems from both. So if you haven't experienced with either of those, it's really great because you'll be able to leverage some of those systems. Now MTRs are not going to be as intensive as your STRs, but also not as easy as your LTRs, right? Because you actually have to go in and furnish them and do all of that, design them, but they don't have to be as crazy and as amazing as an STR. So for your MTR, for example, you have to list it in both places. Like you want to list it wherever you would list it for an STR, Airbnb, VRBO, all of that stuff. But then you also want to list it wherever you would list an LTR, like on Zillow, somewhere like Furnished Finder is also really good, on Facebook Marketplace, all of that stuff. So you're kind of managing both there. And remember that your MTRs, your medium-term rentals, those are going to be your 1 month plus stays. Usually you're doing some sort of monthly rental. It can be anywhere from 1 month to 6 months, sometimes even 12 months. Like my place in New Orleans, I got an MTR rental, fully furnished. All of that, was able to charge more, but it was for a whole year, which is awesome, right? I love it when they can stay for even longer, right? Because less turnover means less spacing, less gaps, and you make sure that you have that consistent income coming in. Note that if your property is one that does need a lot of renovations or some renovations, that is going to be some extra work. Sometimes it can be a lot of work. And you just want to know and have a plan, like, are you going to be doing it yourself? Are you going to be hiring things out? And you want to know this before you actually close. Get your contractors in place, get them lined up, and then provide them with the full scope of work of what you need done. And I know that the term scope of work can be extremely daunting, but it doesn't have to be. It can literally be a Word document with everything that you need done. It could be a spreadsheet. It could be just anything, really. More just a detailed plan of actually what you want done to your property. Like, are you going to be doing flooring? Make sure that you've called a flooring person. Make sure that you've interviewed a couple and decided on one. Have them on the schedule. Make sure your flooring's picked out. All of that stuff kind of needs to be figured out. And the more organized you are upfront, the smoother things are going to go throughout the process. Because remember, we're trying to get the property listed and up for rent as soon as freaking possible. Time is literally money. The more time you have in between actually getting the property listed, that's money that you're losing out on. And I know all of this can feel super overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. You just have to have a plan in place and make sure that you have some sort of a checklist or a spreadsheet that is going through each of the steps that you need to take. Personally, I like to do everything in Monday. I should be like a Monday partner at this point. Monday.com, it's my project management system, because I put absolutely everything in there so that I know what needs to get done. And I can have like deadlines of when things need to get done. I can shift that and move things around and check things off, all of that. Okay, I hope you felt that this was useful. I want you to let me know. This was part 3 of actually how to buy your first house hack investment property or your next one. And stay tuned for next week, which will be part 4 of how to buy your first or next investment property. And we're going to go in depth into the operation. So once you've actually set up your property, what do you do next? Because a lot of people kind of stop there and don't realize that operations is literally half of the battle. Okay, bye fam. Thank you so much for listening to Wanderlust Wealth Show. Now, don't forget to follow the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you love this episode, it would literally mean the world to me if you shared this with a friend or a family member, or literally like anyone off of the street. Like right now, go ahead, share it so you don't forget, or post it on social media and make sure to tag me. I love seeing what you're listening in on and what you resonated with, and I'm just so freaking thankful for you. I'm so freaking excited for you. I love you, and don't forget, life really doesn't have to be hard.